All right, here we go, guys. Welcome to the show. Don, are you there? Can we hear you okay?
I am here, and I can hear you okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. All right, so we've got YouTube comments going down below, guys, and I apologize. We've got Don Shin from Bitcoin Private here. Let me throw a graphic up in just a minute. But Don, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show. We tried this once already, and it just, we had a little bit of all right, here we go, guys.
Hopefully this
Welcome
one will be
to the show.
This one will work out okay.
Yeah, I think it will. So we've got, I definitely confirmed we've got signal right here, and it's great to have you back on the show. And Don, we talked a lot about Bitcoin Private last week, and then I intended to have our interview published for the weekend, and then, I don't know, I reviewed a little bit of the footage. We had kind of spotty signal based on the office that you were at the time, yeah. And I just kind of realized, you know what, let's just do it all over again. I had such a great time chatting with you last week that I hoped you wouldn't mind.
No, this is great. Fantastic.
Awesome. So it's great to have you back. Let's talk a little bit about a couple of things for the Bitcoin Private team, and then a couple of things about the Bitcoin project or Bitcoin Private project. And then let's get back to Bitcoin Private Pay. I think that was something that we chatted about that for me, I had to admit some ignorance about, was Bitcoin Private Pay. And then a few of the other hot topic items, right? Everyone wants to know about ASIC resistance, or so, you know, air quotes ASIC resistance, and everybody wants to know about proof of work. So maybe we could start at the top. Can I ask, as far as the original team, because you we talked about it last week, essentially you're a walk-on, you became an MVP to the community, right? So tell us about how you joined the team, and tell us about the problems that were originally identified that were solved by Bitcoin Private, and then the problems that the team started to continue to work on as you came on.
Sure, I'd love to. So my name is Don Shin. My role is a senior developer for Bitcoin Private, and lately I've been serving in the role of a technical liaison for partnerships as well. And I first started hearing about Bitcoin Private in December when one of the founders, Brett Creighton, had announced that he was going to hard fork ZClassic and try to do this, I guess, novel, innovative mechanism, fork merge or co-fork or spork, or however you want to describe it, between both Bitcoin and ZClassic, so that basically holders of either coin would be able to claim Bitcoin Private. And that was in December. I found out about it because I do some mining on the side. I've got about maybe 30 or so GPUs that I've been mining altcoins with, and all of them started profit switching over to ZClassic at that time, and that's how I encountered the community, joined the public Discord for Bitcoin Private, hung out in the mining channel, provided friendly support to other miners who were looking to figure out how to mine Equihash or mine ZClassic at the time. And I guess along the way, I got recruited to become a part of the support team for the mining community, which turned into the support team for the whole community, which ended up becoming a developer role. And now here I am as a member of the core team, which is a group or council of about 18 individuals. So I got involved with Bitcoin Private pretty early, although I incrementally, I guess, ramped up my engagement and my involvement in the project itself.
Nice. Okay, so you started, you started like a lot of miners do, it sounds like, and then as you saw merit in the project, you were like, well, shoot, let me go all in on this.
Yeah. Let's find out more about it. Let's get more engaged. Let's see what the, I guess, value proposition of this particular coin is. Is this a coin that I'm interested in hodling? And so, so actually the question about value proposition is actually very simple for me because it's what kind of got me increasingly engaged over time. ZK-SNARKs is the privacy technology that Bitcoin Private uses. There are many privacy technologies out there, although I have to admit, I guess, from the outside and as well as now being a part of the team on the inside, we believe that ZK-SNARKs is the gold standard in privacy for cryptocurrency, which basically makes your private balances hidden and shielded, as well as your private transactions between private balances. So that was really clear to me from the start. But what was really compelling was this idea of bringing this technology back to the Bitcoin brand. And I say back to because, in essence, Bitcoin Private was forked from the blockchain of ZClassic, which was a code fork from Zcash, which was a code fork from Bitcoin. So in some sense, I actually kind of see this as ZK Snarks coming home, back to Bitcoin. And as the most recognizable cryptocurrency brand, I became a believer in the idea that even the mainstream cryptocurrency user should have access to the strongest form of encryption and privacy. And that's, in essence, is what Bitcoin Private accomplishes, is to be in nature a Bitcoin, but also to have industry standard privacy features.
Nice. Nice. Okay. So, I mean, I think that'll make sense to me. It really does. Because ZK Snarks are, I mean, were a big deal, right? When they hit. Very big deal. And so to be able to...
I think I'm getting a little bit of choppiness there.
Oh, no.
Am I still coming through?
I think so. Actually, no, there's been a little bit of lag on yours coming. Yeah, your image coming back up.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. So hey, let us know, guys, if there's anything with the broadcast. I'm trying out a slightly different setup than I normally would today. This is live, as you know, instead of us doing any kind of editing, which I've done in the past, and I kind of like helping my guests look and sound their best. And but it sounds like it's been really hard to keep up a good work-life balance. We were talking about that before the live stream, Don, about like having kids, and they don't understand why 12 hours is how long you have to be gone every day, right? Yeah. So yeah, I'm like, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to try to go live just a little more frequently.
Yeah.
So
it's fun. It's funner this way.
Yeah. Well, it seems so spontaneous too, but they don't know. You basically
know
the questions. So let's jump back into some of the problems that intended to be solved by the Bitcoin Private team. Mm-hmm. So I was going to ask why a new fork or why a new token, but it sounds like you needed that to be able to remerge all of the features that you wanted. Do you think there are any projects now that kind of mimic the functionality that you want? Was there any possibility of working with anybody else? This is a question I'm asking a lot of coin projects, by the way.
Yeah. So no, that is a great question, because there are a lot of altcoins out there, and it's increasingly large number of Bitcoin forks out there. So now, there are other Bitcoin forks that have ZK Snarks privacy. One of the things that has been in the works for quite a while, that we're still in the midst of, and is a major effort that we are embarking upon right now, is what we call the rebase effort. So I had mentioned to you the technological heritage of Bitcoin Private, that we were a blockchain fork off of ZClassic with Bitcoin involved as well, which was, and ZClassic was a code fork of Zcash, which was a code fork of Bitcoin. Well, now at this point, whatever code we have in common with the main Bitcoin is several years old. And so we do not have feature parity with what people these days consider is the feature set for Bitcoin. And so in order to fulfill the mission and the value proposition of who we are as Bitcoin Private, we've embarked upon this rebase effort where we're basically going to back import ZK Snarks functionality into the main Bitcoin code base branch. And that way we will then achieve not only feature parity with main Bitcoin today, and I just keep saying main Bitcoin because I don't want to get involved in that whole controversy.
Right, Bitcoin Core versus Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So I do have Roger Ver on the other line. I mean, I can pull him in if you want.
Great. We'll have a lot of fun together. Let's talk about Bitcoin Cash. No. So we will achieve not only feature parity today with Bitcoin, but we will also be able to achieve ongoing feature parity with whatever new innovations make it into the main Bitcoin source code. And so that right there is probably going to be one of the most distinguishing hallmarks of who we are from a technical perspective, is that you've got a lot of code base. I mean, pretty much like 95% of the altcoins are somehow based upon Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin code base. But to have complete feature parity is going to be another thing entirely, because what that means, besides the nice jingle, is that we'll be able to readily and easily integrate with any kind of ecosystem, platform, application that the main Bitcoin ecosystem is connected to. And that includes Lightning, atomic swaps, and a whole bunch of other commerce opportunities that it will afford us. And so that is something that, even though you've got other Bitcoin forks with ZK Snarks technology, we truly want it to be Bitcoin not only in name, but also completely in substance as well.
Got it. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it sounds like you really, the rebase was essential then. It sounds like to doing that, like without going down any other development rabbit holes, you needed to get this rebase done in order to start remerging any forks that are happening on their code base and just get all the goodies that they have.
Yeah, we felt so because at the end of the day, we didn't want to be just another fork. We didn't want to be, we wanted to be like NYEF, not your everyday fork. we wanted to make our own path and make sure that our value proposition had some measure of uniqueness to it.
Awesome. Okay, so I've got a question from comments right now. Somebody's asking, and I apologize in advance because I'm sure you get a lot of this, but it's a question that has to do with ZClassic. So they're asking about ZClassic, and their specific question about ZClassic is the future of ZClassic. And I mean, clearly you're part of the core development team on Bitcoin Private, so I don't know to what extent you still communicate heavily with ZClassic.
Yeah.
Oh, and now, okay, there's some sour grapes. Khalid, come on, man. There's some sour grapes about people saying that they lost, that they were bag holders on ZClassic. I don't know. To what extent does the Bitcoin Private team work with ZClassic? To what extent was there brain drain from ZClassic? Does ZClassic have a future in your opinion? Can you even go on record as saying anything there?
All great questions. So let's start off with your first one about what is our relationship with ZClassic today. So basically, in order to launch the Bitcoin hard fork, we had to do some maintenance work on ZClassic because a lot of the code and systems and the ecosystem around it, from wallets and mining pools and whatnot, hadn't been touched in quite a while or frequently maintained. And so part of the effort of getting Bitcoin Private launched was basically revisiting some of that code and investing in wallet development, investing in Electrum compatibility in preparation for the Bitcoin hard fork. And then around the time of the hard fork, this a little bit predates me because I started increasing my engagement around the hard fork and then that point onward. But there was an article posted on our Medium account detailing a evaluation process, a proposal process by which teams could self-organize and submit their vision and their plan for the ongoing life of ZClassic, and that we would go through a proposal evaluation process, read the proposals, decide on which team had the most compelling vision, and then grant over the GitHub repository for ZClassic to that team to kind of steward that project onward. And I believe that process is still the one that's underway. We believe, I believe we've received 2 proposals. I'm going to risk embarrassing myself because I don't fully know the names of them. I believe it's something like ZClassic Community Edition or CE and ZClassic Blue Team. Again, I am almost afraid of now venturing into the point where I may be misinforming users. But I believe there are 2 teams that have submitted 2 proposals that we'll be evaluating and see where to go from there.
Okay, got it. All right, so it sounds like then the Bitcoin Private team is actually kind of siloed from ZClassic at this point. Like they're on your radar, but you guys aren't like every day like, hey, let's go get coffee and talk about how ZClassic will survive.
Yeah, I would probably say that's fair. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And that makes sense to me also. I mean, working on any kind of a blockchain project is hard enough as it is. Even when you're really deep into VC funding and you've got all the time and money in the world or whatever, it's a lot harder when you've got a multinational team or an international team. And then when you also have a very heavy cultural component of sort of like diehard, FOSS mentality, right? Or open source mentality. Can you speak a little bit about like the culture and the developmental culture and approach to Bitcoin Private? Because we talked about that last time.
Oh, that's great. So right now we are very much kind of a self-organized team that came together. Well, firstly, now, I mean, it's no secret now that Red Creighton is not involved on a day-to-day basis with Bitcoin Private anymore. And all the current team members have pretty much come on board after the announcement of the hard fork. So we're all in a similar situation where we basically heard about the news, heard about the vision for Bitcoin Private, and we have all kind of decided to participate and get on board at differing points in time to support this effort. And so a lot of the model that we sometimes follow is how does Bitcoin do it? How do they kind of self-organize? How do they organize their development? We also oftentimes refer to how Ethereum, both Bitcoin and Ethereum as the pioneers, have managed to stay a decentralized team. And so we have a kind of a contributor Discord that we basically discuss everything from protocol stuff, wallet development, mining, algorithm stuff, exchanges and partnerships, and admin. And that is where I've been increasingly spending my time is on that Discord to basically communicate online. I've actually haven't met many of the core team, especially now that the core team is increasing. We've now close to 20 individuals. But whenever I can, I try to meet up with core team members if happen to be in their city or they happen to be in mine. I actually just caught lunch with Otis, another senior developer for Bitcoin Private today. He just happened to be in town, so that was fun. And more than likely, I think that for an organization, and I can say this from personal experience, being an entrepreneur who runs my own business, you kind of have to have different leadership structures at different life stages of an organization. So what might have served you well or be appropriate for when you're just starting something up, that glove may not fit now after the project is launched and you're trying to take things to the next level. Oh yeah,
you see it in Silicon Valley all the time. This, I mean, yeah. and it's a blow to the ego, but a lot of CEOs who grow a company up to the first million in ARR or in annual recurring revenue sometimes aren't chosen by the board to grow it past $1 million or from 1 to 5, and the person that takes it from 1 to 5 every year isn't always chosen to continue from 5 to 10 or 5 to 20. It's not that it's cutthroat as much as like I think there is some wisdom in the way that tech startups are run in Silicon Valley. In that, yes, sometimes you need a roster change, and sometimes you need an org tree, just overall shake up to just help things keep moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that with regards to that, I think that finding a governance model that will stand the test of time and will take us into the next 3 to 5 years of Bitcoin Private's life cycle is going to be an upcoming challenge, probably increasingly important after we finish the rebase, which is scheduled to be completed in Q3. Q3 meaning July, August, September timeframe.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm getting some sour grapes here, but Khalid, I'm gonna bring this up, and we'll see if we can turn this into a question and see if we can make it a productive question. So Khalid's asking. He says that he thinks that the fork and the price action of ZClassic, that it was an obvious pump moving into Bitcoin Private. I mean, I know you weren't actually on the core development team at that time. What do you say to that? For my part, I don't know that it's totally appropriate. I didn't mean to turn this into an inquisition. Right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, I don't mind an inquisition. I honestly don't, because at the end of the day, we are who we are, and the situation is what it is. I do hesitate on commenting on price action simply because I just don't think it's appropriate for the team to comment on price and where we think it's going to go. That's just, we're trying to focus on creating a project with value and with utility and with real world use. And how the market responds to that is the market's business. Certainly with value will come publicly recognized value. That's obvious. But I personally try my best not to be distracted by what exchanges and people trading on exchanges think about what Bitcoin Private is worth.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna move from there. Bill says, "Greetings from Clarksville, Tennessee." Well, howdy, Bill. It's good to have you on the show. All right. And Freak DL says, "How's that the team's fault? Stop being salty, dude. It's called FOMO." Don doesn't. I don't think Don is permitted to say that on behalf of Bitcoin Private, but I'm glad that you did in the comments. Appreciate it. That said, I mean, it is really important to do your research. It is really important to check to see, like, so when I got involved in Bitcoin Private, rather when I saw Bitcoin Private hit my radar, it was kind of framed as, from a mining perspective, hey, mine some ZClassic. it's going to be the fastest way to, fastest, cheapest way to get hands on a coin that will fork, or a coin that will, that will yield some Bitcoin private at the fork.
Yeah.
And that just kind of made sense to me, but I was looking at it from a miner's perspective. So,
I mean, it was certainly objectively cheaper than holding Bitcoin. So, especially since both coins got a 1-to-1 forking ratio. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that, hopefully we can move forward with figuring out how to make our coin useful, because the use is there's going to be the value going forward.
Yeah, awesome. Let's talk about that. So the rebase is happening, and you're mentioning that sometime in Q3 the rebase should be done, and then there are other functionalities on the roadmap that I think at least Bitcoin private fans and hodlers are interested in seeing. So let's talk about that. Which specific new problem is on the roadmap after the rebase?
Sure. Well, so the three things that are kind of, I'm going to cheat a little bit and not focus so much on after the base as what is occupying our mind share right now. The three things is the rebase, what to do about the whole ASIC miner situation, and Bitcoin private pay. And the reason why those things are preoccupying the majority of our energy and focus right now, the rebase I've already explained to you, kind of represents to us the fulfillment of Bitcoin private's destiny as a true Bitcoin, but also with top-of-the-line privacy features. We're going to talk about ASIC mining, I believe, in just a moment. And then Bitcoin private pay, which is actually not really have anything to do with the protocol of Bitcoin private, but has to do with building out the ecosystem. Because when you think about it, a lot of technology, technology is valuable. Technology gives you a competitive edge to other projects, but technology, especially open source technology, is easily copyable. What we want to do is we want to build value and real world use cases that are not easily replicatable by other ecosystems and projects. And from the very beginning, we recognized that in order to create a competitive moat, we need to establish opportunities for Bitcoin private to be used as real world form of payment.
Well, first off, you use the words competitive moat. Elon Musk just called and he's like, okay, what is your strategy for rapid innovation? Where's your motorboat? Get rid of these moats.
Competitive moat. So, I mean, in competitive moat is business school speak for what are the things you could do with your business such that you can protect your competitive advantage once you establish it, or protect your market lead once you establish it. And by the way, I don't necessarily believe that it's a zero-sum game. I believe that there are a lot of projects that can thrive together. In fact, I believe that whole ecosystems could potentially form up through collaboration of projects. That having been said, here's what we are doing. Bitcoin private pay really doesn't have too much to do with the protocol side of things, but it does have to do with establishing ecosystem for real-world use. It is a platform that makes it easy for vendors to be able to accept Bitcoin private as a form of payment for their shopping cart, for their payment systems, for other scenarios, for donations, for nonprofits, and so forth. Because if you can accept if you can accept Bitcoin private and create an environment where Bitcoin private is an acceptable form of payment, well, then you're going to see use. You're going to see utility. You're going to see an exchange of hands, velocity for a currency, and that, in the long run, is what makes one currency more valuable than another. Is its velocity and its real world use as a form of money and a form of payment. So that is a major endeavor that's actually handled by another portion of the team. We've got some folks working on the protocol, some folks working on the wallet, some folks interested in the ASIC and mining situation, of which I'm one of them since I started off as a miner, and other folks working on the Bitcoin private pay, which is now an open beta. We've got more than 100 businesses who have signed up to engage in this beta and test it out to give us real world feedback before we do something like a more public launch. And if a vendor can accept Bitcoin private pay, well then, and the more vendors that accept Bitcoin private as a form of payment, then that's going to relieve some of the pressure of having to always exchange into fiat to do anything of use with your money.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, I'm getting some holla back in the comment section here. CryptoBex is saying adoption is key. Adoption is key, and that I would have to agree with. Utility breeds adoption, though, right? So having something like that allows people to bring up adoption, because there's so many, like you said before, so many forks of Bitcoin, specifically Satoshi-like blockchains that they do the same thing, and so it begs the question: why? Why?
Yeah, and
adopt all of them. Adoption could go. I mean, then that proves all of the old school pundits talking about tulip bulbs, proves them right if we adopt useless coin projects.
Yeah, I think that we are past the days where you can kind of launch your own cryptocurrency, and if you build it, they will come. You have to go a little bit further than that. You have to really put tools in the hands of merchants to be able to use Bitcoin Private for real world use cases. And we believe Bitcoin Private is actually an excellent coin for business and commerce because of its privacy features and because of its name brand, which for better or for worse represents a certain level of mainstream acceptance, a certain comfort level with, people may not have heard about this altcoin or that coin, but everyone's heard of Bitcoin at this point. So hopefully people can understand that we are a private version of Bitcoin.
Nice, nice. So Justin asks in the comments, any plans for volatility mitigation? For merchants specifically. Hey, Don, do I still have you?
No, I'm sorry. I'm just kind of processing and thinking. I'm an introvert, so I actually think internally.
You're right.
I will acknowledge, as a business owner myself, I will acknowledge that that is an issue that certainly I'm concerned about in considering how to integrate the acceptance of Bitcoin Private into my own business finance flow. At this point, the basic answers are already out there in terms of using software to be able to automatically adjust the amount of payments based upon the snapshot market value. But I think that right now there's too much volatility, and this is kind of gets into a little bit of finance, a little bit of trading that I don't want to get in too far deep.
Sure, it definitely goes outside the scope of what the project is doing. It has it's a lot more commentary on the market, right? When Bitcoin sneezes, every other project catches cold.
Yeah. I will say this: how do you reduce volatility? Well, we make our coin have more obvious real-world utility, and not just have its value determined by the realm of speculation. And that's what we're aiming to do. Is we're not focusing on the whole speculation side of things. We're focusing on making our coin a form of payment.
Nice. Steel Horses 2004 says, "Hey Don, I don't know if that name rings a bell."
You're putting me on the spot. I'm not sure.
Right. It's gonna be your wife. It's gonna be your wife. Like, you jerk.
Throw me a bone.
So awesome. Okay, guys, let's ask some more questions about the project specifically. And Justin, he concedes that it's not necessarily a Bitcoin Private problem, that volatility and the need for volatility mitigation in merchant payment processing. The reality is there are issues with merchant payments, merchant processing having volatility and having problems and having to settle running batches and such for Visa and MasterCard. There are so many crazy things that already happen there with traditional fiat that that adding a layer of abstraction that includes crypto to that probably all just needs to be slashed, burned, and then started from scratch. To what extent is Bitcoin Private Pay going to address the awkwardness of traditional models of merchant processing?
So with Bitcoin Private Pay, right now, when you set up an e-commerce shopping cart, you have to kind of set up today. If you want to accept, credit card, you have to kind of set up a payment processing gateway and then have it linked up to your bank account and then have a settlement period for payments to go out. the beauty of cryptocurrency is it actually cuts out some middleman related complexity. The platform itself is not going to store any private keys. But the software will allow you to directly send from your wallet directly to the merchant's wallet. And so the merchant would see their payment come in a lot faster than a payment processing gateway, and pretty much at the speed of the network, which is, our network's generally pretty fast, with an average block time of 2.5 minutes. And then it just depends on how many confirmations does the vendor or merchant want to wait for before they really, want to do something with it. But most merchants, they're just looking to get their payment and get it with some measure of certainty. And so that cuts out a lot of the complexity, cuts out a lot of, kind of like any potential credit, like what would be known in the traditional realm as credit card processing fees and whatnot. Now you just got, a 0.0001 BTCP transaction fee, which is great.
Right.
So
depending on, like you said, the number of confirmations that you want to have dictates what your fees are. Then.
Yeah, and I think that those advantages that are inherent to blockchain-based cryptocurrencies really present some unique value propositions there for accepting that payment.
Zama. Stop him. Troll. All right. So,
Troll.
Wow, impressive. So just like Bitcoin. Thanks, buddy. Thanks.
Let's go there. No, not just like Bitcoin. Because with Bitcoin, you have to wait 10 minutes for a block to be mined. For Bitcoin, you have to pay $10 worth of cryptocurrency just to get the transaction through. No, Bitcoin is actually not a great way to, buy something right now. Now, I'm not saying Bitcoin can't get there, because all these projects are constantly evolving as technology evolves and ingenuity of mankind, pushes the envelope. But Bitcoin Private is part of that pushing. It's part of that advancement in ideas, and hopefully we're not. I don't think, like, I'm not going to be so pompous to say that we're looking to replace Bitcoin, because Bitcoin does a lot of things really, really well. But we are trying to solve this particular use case of being accepted as a real form of payment, which we believe Bitcoin is actually not very well optimized to do right now.
Hey, totally agreed there. I got some questions from the comments here, and I'm just going to take a couple of these, and then guys, we're gonna go back to some of the set questions that I have here. First off, Don, I really appreciate you doing this, taking the questions from the comments, because it's like getting slide tackled in the middle of a soccer game, or getting pummeled in the scrum with rugby, and then you just keep playing. So
hopefully the community will appreciate this, because at the end of the day, this is a community-driven project.
Yeah, awesome. That I appreciate also. Let's get back to that in just a moment. So a couple of questions, and I really appreciate this one from Alexander221. By the way, Alexander, if you change your name to Alexander223, you would be like the anarcho-capitalist's best friend, because that's awesome. At least, yeah, any Second Amendment fans out there. So his question is, what's the idea to spread the coins to average people who are not into mining and crypto exchanges? How is Bitcoin Private different than any other mass adoption, instant pay, or privacy coins?
So a lot of it's about the ecosystem and the tools. I think having merchants be able to accept Bitcoin Private gives everyday users a reason to hold Bitcoin Private, in the same way that accepting or not accepting Amex gives you an incentive to have or not to have an Amex card.
Well, Costco is a great example of this, actually. Within the last 24 months, moving from Amex actually to back over. I think they're with MasterCard now. So yeah, big vendors, right? Yeah, they did.
Huge.
They did. So right, and that's just it. Big companies like Costco, if they can make that kind of a switch based on the incentives that they have as merchants, then clearly anybody can.
Yeah.
Nobody's too big to switch.
Yeah, and then how do you fulfill the puzzle? How do you get all the pieces of the puzzle into place? Well, another part is for everyday users to be able to, basically be with their Bitcoin Private and to be able to utilize it on a moment's notice. So even though all of our wallets are desktop based right now, eventually we're going to be investing in sophisticated and extremely easy to use mobile wallets that will allow for transparent and eventually shielded transactions as well, such that you could basically transfer currency. Ideally, the long-term vision is to have someone be able to, like, I give you some Bitcoin private as a tip for something as easy as kind of Apple Pay or near-field communication. There's all sorts of technical possibilities that we could be open to exploring. At the very least, we could always do things that are really well known and reliable, like scanning of QR codes on someone else's phone or something, to be able to just send you Bitcoin private. Already in our Discord, we have a really cool tip bot where if you say something really helpful or you help me out in a mining channel, I could just tip you whatever, 0.1 Bitcoin private or whatever, and make it easy to do. We also have been partnering with third-party partners like Cointigo. And Cointigo is a business that allows you to basically SMS your Bitcoin private. You don't have to have internet connection. As long as you have, as long as your phone, your flip phone can send text messages, you can send Bitcoin private from yourself to someone else.
Oh, that is Richard Stallman's dream come true, right? Talking about the open source community, right? Like I don't want to use a cell phone, but if I have to, I want it to be as Stone Age as possible, but still be able to do stuff.
Well, I think a lot of Westerners, they kind of like scratch their heads when they first hear that and first encounter that. Like, why would I want to do that versus, just send something to, more another method? And the answer is, well, frankly, the financial systems in the rest of the world are not always as reliable as the ones that we've come to take for granted. And especially in areas of the world where there's either rampant inflation, corruption, a lack of security in the banking systems, a lack of ability to retain your own wealth, being able to have cryptocurrency and to be able to easily send cryptocurrency without relying upon sophisticated network infrastructure is actually a really compelling value proposition. So actually, I believe Cointigo, the system, Cointigo, I think, is based in South America. And I think that it's important to acknowledge that even though we may not necessarily see value in a particular solution or tool, a good portion of the rest of the world might actually very much need that in order to just live and have healthy, prosperous, normal lives. So there's that, and of course there's also some alliances we're exploring with some cryptocurrency ATMs on the way. So hopefully we can push forward with some of those as well.
Yeah, awesome. So Steelhorse 2004 goes on record as saying, "Hey, it's me, Steel, from the Discord."
Hey, Steel. He's a frequenter for the mining channel.
Nice. That's just it. I think so. Just a little aside here, guys. If there's anybody who's watching that hasn't gotten into mining, I can't endorse it highly enough. You see right here, Don, who is part of the core development team of a major, well-known. You guys are top. You guys top 75 right now. You're top 100 market cap, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Typically, we're at least top 50.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I pardon my ignorance, but you got a top 50 market cap coin here that attracted some of their core development team who, by mining initially. Mining is one of the best ways to become familiar with blockchain technology, understanding the ecosystem. We're just getting your feet wet, right?
I'm like a case study in that. I would not have found out about ZClassic or Bitcoin Private were not for mining it. So that's a story that I tell often, actually.
Awesome. Well, super glad to hear it. And I've got an interest in promoting mining, right? I run mineyour.biz.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I truly believe that too. Like I'm a true believer. I'm a convert to mining for sure. Mm-hmm. Just because I think, there's so many people who say like, I don't understand it. Keys and networks and nodes or nodes versus wallets, all this other stuff.
It's a heck of a lot of fun. And it's become super easy too. Like when I was first starting to like wrestle and trying to figure out how to mine Ethereum, like I was freaking out, and several times, like about a year ago when I was trying to find a pool, I started using a pool. It went out of business, and I was just like, man, this thing is just. But now there are great pools. There are great mining tools. There are great mining tool managers. I use Awesome Miner. That's not a paid plug. I just love using Awesome Miner on my machines.
Yeah.
Anyways,
awesome.
we can go into that.
No, I'm with you. Like anything that helps, mining management. I use, I prefer Hive OS. I actually have a couple of mining systems here, which I don't have a movable webcam, but got a great system over here that, with these mining management tools, like I can leave stuff at the office here and don't have to get the home office or the bedroom or the bonus room or the basement or whatever. I don't have to, increase the heat and the noise and the likelihood of my kids walking in and being like, what does this do? And like, unplugging something and overvolting, a cable and melting something or whatever.
Yeah, I have no open rack mining rigs because nothing that little hands can get into and possibly hurt themselves or hurt my equipment. So it's embarrassing to say, but I have like more than 30 graphics cards, all in enclosed PC chassis. All just like I got like a mining rig underneath my buffet table, a mining rig like behind the sofa, a mining rig. I mean, obviously with proper ventilation, of course. But anyways, I do what I can.
Awesome. So we kind of talked about that mining. So this is crazy. I'm gonna, guys, I apologize, but I kind of have to ignore the comments now. Khalid, I expect better from you. I'm gonna scold you right now. I expect better from you. I think the reason that they're on the show is precisely because I've gone far enough out of my way to, at least for my mind, have it settled that Bitcoin Private is not a scam. So stop it, sir. All right. The question that I had for you, and you mentioned the 3 core problems that the core development team is sort of thinking about simultaneously, regardless of roadmap and exactly when it's going to be executed. But you mentioned ASIC resistance is on there as well, in addition to Bitcoin Private Pay. So ASIC resistance, of course, is what everybody's talking about. I don't want to beat a dead horse because the Equihash miners are here, right? They're on the network. They're doing their thing. But what has Bitcoin Private's conversation been like surrounding ASIC mining and air quotes ASIC resistance?
Sure. And if I go over too much old material, feel free to stop me or just rush the conversation forward. I'm not going to be offended. But, we're a council. And as a core team, we have a tremendous spectrum of opinion, diversity of opinion about the question of what is the proper role of ASICs in a proof of work ecosystem. Some of us lean more towards, GPUs as the ultimate form of hash power decentralization and see ASICs as a threat to that philosophical bent. And others see ASICs as sort of like an inevitability or even a mark of maturity for a proof of work ecosystem that like, oh gosh, we've kind of come of age. There's enough like market incentive now to justify the development of an ASIC. So I guess we've arrived. It's sort of like, the opposite spectrum. And then there's a lot of people who fall right in between, right? Yeah. And all of those perspectives are valid and respected within our team. That having been said, we have come to a consensus with how we, with our project, want to react to the advent of these Z9 ASIC miners. And that is that we are going to hard fork. We are going to switch to a different proof of work algorithm, but we're going to do it not on a rush timetable, but on a timetable that coincides with our rebase. And the reason why is because to us, the rebase is of such importance that we don't want to do anything that would threaten its launch or push back development further. And we believe that, in terms of our development path, but at the same time, we also want to acknowledge that this is an important issue. And so the compromise that we've settled upon is that we're going to do both at the same time. Launch the rebase and simultaneously hard fork to a different algorithm, which may be as simple as a change in Equihash parameters, or it might be something a little bit more exotic, possibly SHA-3, possibly something else. We have weighed all of the possible options on the table. I think whatever algorithm you can think of, we've probably brought it up in discussion at one point or another, including the rotating X16 SNRs. We've been very interested. I've been personally very interested in Prog PLW. But I think that, if I were to guess, I would guess that we would do something that, was a good compromise out of all the constraints that we have going on. Timetable, level of effort required, history of security and stability, mitigating the increase of attack vectors for any kind of like breaches or things going wrong. Those are all things that we as kind of curators of this protocol have to consider when making the choice. So we haven't made an official choice on the algorithm yet, but I will tell you that it won't be echo-hash 209 when this rebase comes out in Q3.
Nice. Okay, this is great news. So I don't know if you guys heard it here first, but I'm just going to say you heard it here first. Not echo-hash 209. So, yeah.
Yes. Not echo-hash 209.
we've narrowed it down to everything else. Nice. Well, as you know, I interviewed Christy recently, and a lot of her followers are saying like, "Hey, Prog POW is the way to go because it's got so much support from her company, and it's got so much support from several other up and coming coins. I don't think as many high profile projects as Bitcoin Private right now, but it's getting there. For my part, I'm not saying wait and see so much, but I am a big fan of proof of air quotes useful work. And I think Prog POW, at the bare minimum, gets us thinking about GPUs instead of just ASICs. And so from there, we can start saying, like, all right, now what is the useful work? What is the best use case for a GPU, this unique architecture that's already by its nature decentralized because it is it's a piece of enthusiast gear.
I just want to say, I loved that interview. I loved it because it spoke to like the geek in me, the pragmatist in me, and it was funny. You guys did a great job. But yeah, it was, you guys were really in depth into all sorts of cool, interesting mining possibilities that I didn't even realize existed, like that M.2 mining, accessory and stuff like that. I was like, man, I need to like look into these because my house is getting too hot. Anyways, yeah. So, I mean, I will say one consideration that has been important to our team is like, has the algorithm been around and has stood the test of time? But I am very, very personally interested in Prog POW because of what it's trying to achieve and that goal of having an algorithm that truly is designed and optimized for GPUs, not just through memory hardening, but even through operations as well. I thought was a really compelling argument that I would love to see how it all turns out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I mean, spoiler alert, guys, on the last conversation that Don and I had, you conceded that it would be good for more projects to speak together, and I believe you agreed to join our more public conversations with some other project leads. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of I don't know if this is a secret or not. I don't think it's a secret, but I'm already a member of an Equihash coin Discord. We've kind of shared some thoughts. Now, granted, I will admit, Bitcoin Private, we have not been the most active contributor on that Discord, but it has kind of influenced my thinking that there are good times to collaborate with other teams, and that there can be kind of prosperous, prosperous ecosystems that arise out of the collaboration of teams as well. It's kind of expanded my horizons and challenged me to think from a different angle. So
yeah, awesome. Well, I'm very glad to hear that, and I'm looking forward to having you on the channel again with some other select projects. And so we'll always be kind of figuring out how to get some dissent into the conversation. That's one of the biggest things that I think is actually missing from the mining and from the development side. We get it a lot on the market, right? The markets, everybody has an opinion, and so you've got this broad range of what people think about price and about buying or selling signals in the markets. And every other person is an expert, right? So they've got these really strong opinions. But when it comes to proof of work and when it comes to mining, I don't think that we're having as much public discourse as we need to have, and showing that dissent by saying like, well, here are reasons X, Y, and Z that we want to continue with proof of work, or that we want to start doing hybrid models, or that we want to start changing the emphasis of proof of work, or whatever, figuring out better difficulty algorithms, for example. Because otherwise we just have this ongoing arms race, whether it's GPU or ASIC, got this ongoing arms race where every generation of mining equipment of a necessity has to be anywhere from 2 times to an order of magnitude more powerful just to keep the network fed.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, if everyone has faster equipment, it's not necessarily that the network is more secure. It just means it's a higher number, but we all have the same size of the pie, the piece of the pie of the network. Actually, I had a question for you. You're a miner and you're invested in mining kind of like a similar way that I am. What do you think about the exploration of other forms of proof, besides proof of work?
Well,
Because now that you brought up hybrid model, hybrid, proof and stuff like that, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts.
yeah, well, hey, I appreciate you asking. Without going too in depth, because spoiler alert, there is an ongoing series about what I think on proof of work, and so if you saw the Unnamed Sunday Crypto Show, my brother and I talked a lot. We both have entertainment backgrounds. For him in visual effects and in animation, and then with me in video, live action, and post production. Well, both live production and post production. We mentioned before the show that I'm actually used to a much more fancy live video production rig with a dozen video inputs and all the other stuff. So where I'm going with this is that my brother and I talked at length about entertainment options, because this is the age of media consumption, and GPUs, let's face it, they were designed by AMD, the current generations by AMD and NVIDIA, to feed the need for media consumption in most markets. That's what they were designed to do well. And we've been throwing these complex hashing algorithms, right? We've been throwing cryptographic problems, trying to solve cryptographic problems with pieces of hardware that were designed at their core to render polygons and meshes and textures and pixels. So there's got to be some kind of hybrid proof of work that speaks to the unique core strengths of this hardware, because that's already the most decentralized form of hardware that can be used for mining. So what if it might be, some would say, like crypto purists would say, well, that's the tail wagging the dog. I disagree. Where things have gone, and nobody could have predicted this, and it was one CPU, one vote. Nobody could have predicted that it would lean so heavily on GPUs. And so in my mind, we have to start looking back and saying, all right, we're here now. So where does proof of work go? Where does difficulty go?
Yeah.
Where does useful work go? And how do we still make it meaningful for cryptographic hashing?
I mean, I'm fascinated by this idea.
You cut out there, Don. Do we still have you?
Yeah. Sorry. I think the connection is back up again. I am fascinated about this idea of optimizing an algorithm for the inherent characteristics of the GPU. Again, besides just memory hardening, which is, to me, sort of like a superficial way of doing it. One of our community members on Discord was talking about, he challenged the community by saying, maybe we could come up with some kind of ray tracing proof of work, because then that would leverage the inherent characteristics of the GPU. And I think the challenge with that is the challenge with all of these proof of works is that they have to be solvable, readily and almost instantly solvable by any processor. In other words, it must take a lot of time and a lot of effort to come up with a solution, but must be instantly verifiable with very, very little processing power. And so, even though you've got a GPU mining, some node out there has to be able to through just commodity hardware, be able to verify the solution is correct. And I think that asymmetry is something that will kind of continue to dog us and make this a challenge. Anyways, geeking.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. You know, I need to introduce you to in Austin, Burns Hollyman. He runs I'll get you hooked up to Burns Hollyman. He runs a video game research firm in Austin. And
cool.
So I don't know where he is on crypto right now, but I met him a few years ago when we were prepping for a pitch meeting for another tech startup. And Justin here asks or mentions in the comments distributed gaming, and I'm kind of with you. I think OnLive had a really great thing going, lag issues notwithstanding. I think distributed gaming and streaming is a really great use case.
I love it. Proof of gaming. We gotta
right.
We gotta figure something out together here.
Right. SHA-3 meets Pokemon Go.
Instead of miners, we'll have gamer wedding. But anyways, I think that. But again, that all goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Why Prog POW is so personally fascinating to me. I don't know if that means a serious consideration anytime soon, but for the project. But it's something that I'm very intrigued by. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Let's jump back into a couple of these questions because we're coming up on an hour. I don't want to take up your whole afternoon, evening, about 4 p.m. where you are. So let's see. Team and background. I think we asked these questions in the original interview. Team and background, kind of. What are some of the credentials of team members right now? Core development team members for Bitcoin Private, and why? What gets everybody up in the morning saying hey, a lot of us are open source devotees. We're doing this for the love of the project. What gets you up in the morning? What gets them up in the morning saying, all right, it's Bitcoin private today. I want to do this.
Yeah. So out of the core team members, it's a group of close to 20, about half of them have a development background. And that development background can span the gamut between blockchain and protocol development, wallet app development, mining related stuff, and DevOps, web development, cloud-based systems. There's a lot that goes into building an ecosystem for cryptocurrency. And, in terms of I think that some of us are kind of have a more philosophical bent than others. Some of us are libertarians. Some of us believe in privacy and are privacy advocates. For me personally, I have some philosophical bent that if you're going to have cutting edge privacy, then even the good guys should have it, not just the people that hey,
especially the good guys should have it, right? That whole if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear trope. It's bogus. It's screed, right?
No. Yeah. And that's why I think that personally, this is a little bit of a side, but I'll get back to what we were talking about earlier, that in order for cryptocurrency to get beyond just a lab setting and to be used for everyday use, you've got to be private. You've got to be. I can't imagine a world where I could look up, your Wells Fargo bank account just by knowing your account number, or that I could see all your transaction history with other account numbers and be able to kind of work backwards and figure things out. I can't imagine a business would ever want to have their balances in cryptocurrency knowing their competitors could potentially discover their accounts and then follow and keep track of all their transactions with different vendors, different supply chain partners or whatever. That's not tenable for both personal or business use. So that's why I believe that the future of cryptocurrency is private.
Awesome. Anyways, totally agreed there. So, and that it sounds like that's kind of part of what gets you up in the morning, saying all right, I got the full-time gig. I'm a business owner and operator, but also Bitcoin private all day, every day, however much they need me.
Yeah. So just a little bit of background about me personally. I run a software development studio and consultancy. Been doing that for more than 20 years now. I contribute and volunteer, essentially donate what time I do have between all the different things that are pulling on my life to further this project, because of that philosophical bent about believing that even the good guys should have privacy. Two, it's been fun. It's been fun for me to learn, to grow, to start something new. It certainly hasn't been boring. Three, it's been great to getting to know the team and to know other talented individuals who have giftings and talents that are different from mine, but it exposed me to something new. And again, that's part of my own growth trajectory. And so those are some of the things that motivate me personally. And again, for the team, it's a diverse array of motivations, some philosophical, some privacy advocacy. Some people are interested in the tech as well. And some people have to kind of just come in via the community angle, and they're part of the community and they've been hodling and they just want to, figure out how they could be part of, if some people, they see a problem and they want to be part of the solution. That's actually how a lot of our decentralized marketing has come into place, is that a lot of people saw a need and they kind of self-organized, the community did. And now they've actually got some measure of admirable structure, like a multi-sig wallet amongst themselves to be able to organize marketing campaigns, a voting process on marketing proposals. It's pretty amazing. And I think that speaks to one of our core strengths as a project, which is the community.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, it seems like it's kind of funny. In startup land, you can pay, and this was true in Hollywood too, working back at the studios, but you can pay somebody $150,000 a year, and pay them $250,000 a year, and they will still feel like, oh, I'm being undervalued, I'm being underpaid. But in open source, specifically, when you solve real problems that really matter, people are like, oh no, this is awesome. This is like a calling, practically. Like I could do this. I'm really sink my teeth into this.
I know this sounds campy, but I think that there's a little bit of that in all of us that wants to be part of something bigger than ourselves, and to accomplish something great that we can't potentially do just on our own, but potentially with, joining hands and efforts with other like-minded individuals, we can do great things. And so that's hopefully what Bitcoin Private will be for us.
Awesome. Okay, so definitely got the FOSS vibe, man. Got that for sure. I keep getting that in our talks, and I love it. I don't know if you use the GIMP for drawing and for image manipulation, but
I'm a Photoshop user. But
well, hey, no one's perfect. It's fine. I've been paid to use Photoshop at gigs before, right, for content creation, and I love it. It's got a great skill. It's got a great toolkit. But oh my gosh, GIMP 2.10, they just blew the doors off. Yeah, and that's totally open source, right? One of the best projects out there.
I switched from Maya to Blender.
Hey, not half bad.
For some of the viewing audience, Maya is an industry standard commercial 3D rendering software and platform, and Blender is sort of like an open source free version of that. So
yeah, but here's the thing: like we're going to be talking to, we probably will be talking to. I think we're going to be talking to Jules from Otoy and Render Token, and
cool.
And so, but man, Octane Render works. It plugs into Blender. It's not like you can't get professional results.
I mean, it's amazing how far free and open source tools have gone. Certainly, a lot farther than I initially thought. Because I've been, in this software consulting business for quite a long time. At a point where it was all commercial, but there are some things that makes sense should belong to the ownership of humanity and not necessarily to one particular organization. And to me, that might be, I think the system of money and commerce could potentially be argued as one of those things. That shouldn't belong to just some cartel or some group of individual decision makers, but belong to humanity. So, and I am not a, how should you call it? I'm not a flaming libertarian by any means. No, I'm really not.
All right. Well, there's for any viewers wondering, there's also a broad spectrum of libertarians too, right? So when you say flaming, it makes them wonder, like, what do you mean exactly?
I did that as a joke. I did that it wasn't very funny, I guess.
No worries. So yeah. I think there are a lot of cryptocurrency and a lot of privacy advocates who, they fall somewhere on the spectrum of libertarianism, whether it's anarcho-capitalism on the one side, or it's straight ahead. What is it? They cut their teeth on Ron Paul, which is essentially to say they had milk before the meat of libertarianism. So they kind of right where it's like then Ron Paul drew them in from left and right alike, right? Where they're like, wait a second, so my party is kind of hypocritical, but I mean, let's digress too much.
I am not. I guess all that to say, I'm not an ideologue. I am not. My politics might even surprise people, but all that to say that, like, I just think that cryptocurrency is cool, and if it were to become mainstream, I'd want it to be private.
Nice, awesome. Well, I love that that's the approach that you're taking. Let's talk a little bit about some of the rest of the team. You mentioned before that one of the core founders is no longer with the project, but there are still a few like OGs. And as far as there being a coin distribution for the development team, people taking something of the coin distribution from the initial fork, what does that look like with some transparency? I'm sure block explorers would tell some of that story.
Yeah. So I think I know what you're referring to, which is this misconception that I would like to take the liberty to correct. That's this idea that blockchain developers can just grant themselves coins arbitrarily at any given time, which is totally not the case. At least it's not in our case. If there is another case, I don't know about it. But in our case, so let's provide some context. As a Bitcoin and ZClassic fork, there's going to be, as with any fork, a lot of coins that are unclaimed. Because a good example of that would be Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin stash. If he wanted to, he can claim a heck of a lot of Bitcoin private. Chances are he won't. Chances are those coins will go unclaimed. So, and the other interesting characteristic, which I would say is actually quite unique to our situation, is that when you've got a whole heck of a lot of Bitcoin already mined, and you've got some measure of ZClassic already mined, and both of those coins have a max supply of 21 million each. Bitcoin Private has a max supply of 21 each, but when you combine both the circulating supply of Bitcoin and ZClassic, now we've accounted for more than 20 million of that 21 million maximum supply of Bitcoin private. That creates some interesting phenomena. And one that I like to point out, and I think that would make a lot of crypto OGs happy about this particular characteristic, is that there's less than 3% inflation in perpetuity, maximum. Not just per year, but in perpetuity, because I mean, as long as that 21 million cap is there, there's only so much left to mine. Now, there's only so much left to mine. Our block reward every 2.5 minutes on average is 1.565 BTCP. So what? So one of the ideas that's outlined in the white paper is this idea that if we need more coins to mine for the miner's sake, then one possibility is about a year down the road, somewhere there's no set date, we could consider the possibility of doing a coin burn for the unclaimed coins within the ecosystem, within the network, and make that remineable again for the miners.
Wow.
There are other
so will it be like a live event? Will it be like Burning Man, where it's like burning Satoshi?
Well, it's not going to be nearly as dramatic, unfortunately. And the reason why is because if we were to go down that route, it would be like a very infinitesimal amount per day, such that you might not even notice it, and it wouldn't dramatically affect the coin market cap at any given time.
So just slowly nibble until Satoshi reveals him. Yeah, until Satoshi reveals him or herself. Just start nibbling at that little coin supply. Yeah. Be like, oh wait, Satoshi was the NSA the entire time.
No comment on any conspiracy theories, but so that is what we would do. And there's also a possibility that maybe we would explore a way to fund the project beyond the first year, because right now the funding of the project is based upon the mining donation pool, where people donated their hashing power towards mining ZClassic, and those funds have helped to support some initial capital costs, like listing fees for exchanges, bounties for developers. But we've been doing, I would say that the people in charge of the purse strings have been doing, from my perspective, an admirable job of keeping track of things and making sure that we don't run out of money in year one. That having been said, there's year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6, especially if we plan to run the distance. We're going to have to think of and explore other alternative forms. But here's the misconception that I think people need to understand, is that whatever we explore doing, it's going to have to be decided by and approved by the miners, because a hard fork is going to have to be implemented in order to achieve ongoing consensus. And so this is not an opportunity. There is no opportunity for developers to surreptitiously say, we're going to funnel coins to ourselves or anything along those lines, because we're basically going to have to get the support of the community, the mining community in particular, with whatever we do. And if this is going to be a community-driven coin that is going to run the distance, the community is going to have to take part in coming up with a solution for how a community-driven coin is funded. Since we aren't an ICO, we didn't do any kind of initial coin offering. I don't think the community the people who have been kind of flocking to support Bitcoin Private, they're flocking to us because we weren't an ICO. And yet there are some, there are certain realities that, like, if you want the project to not be technically stagnant and to incentivize developers to continue making changes, to continue paying for partnership fees and things of that nature, the community will have to help us when that time comes on how this project will continue funding itself going forward after the first.
Awesome.
And that would be like
I got a question in the comments here, by the way, that is related to this. Somebody asked specifically, who shall decide the question of whether to burn or not? And I think you've pretty much answered that. This would be put to the community.
Yeah. And by the way, and that will be like 6 to 8 months down the road. Actually, probably even longer than that. I mean, there's no hard date. But whatever we decide to do, it's going to have to be approved, and it's not going to be happening quickly. It's going to happen with a lot of probably community participation and debate. And also, here's one other thing to consider, is that the coin burn is not set in stone. If we could figure out other creative ways to fund the ongoing development and support of the protocol, we will. But it's not set in stone. It's not kind of a foregone conclusion at this point.
Okay, awesome. All right, so it sounds like then the bottom line can be summed up by saying that this is going to be a community affair moving forward.
Yes.
Awesome.
Probably the biggest one. Yes, the biggest family gathering in Bitcoin Private's history at that point is going to happen. Is like figure out, okay, we've gone past year one. Now where do we go from here? Both in technical priority as well as, well, how do we ensure that the project is adequately funded for the next 3, 5, 10 years forward?
Yeah, awesome. Terry B says, burn the coins and add a dev fee in each block. Bless your heart, Terry.
Something we can consider. It's something we can explore. And hopefully there will be other possibilities and other options as well, so we can choose the best one.
Yeah, awesome. Let's jump back into some of these questions. I've had you on the show for about an hour, 15 minutes here, so I don't want to ask you to be, I don't want to take you away from your family any longer. You're literally at home with your family, wondering like, hey, where's Dad? Where's Don? So let's ask here.
Banging on the door earlier. Like,
kids, they have no respect.
Don't you know I'm doing an interview?
They're just like, yeah, but you're home. I mean, that means you're home, right?
They have no sense of like, and understandably so. Like, how would they know how the adult world works? And all they know is that Daddy's in the next door and he's not talking to us. What's going on?
Right.
So it's understandable.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit. We kind of talked about ASIC resistance, talked about proof of work in general. I mean, you've got a sense for where I'm coming from. I think in such a media-centered world, there's so many uses. I mean, here we are streaming video, and probably not at the level that we could be. There could be ways to do all kinds of additional rich media tasks with all those GPUs out there. We talked a little about that. Part of the proof of work conversations moving forward with other coin projects is going to be with regards to proof of useful work. With regards to Prog POW, Christy has reached out and said that she wants to start a regular weekly segment with me. So we're going to be talking Prog POW regularly and proof of useful work regularly.
Cool.
And so expect to be invited back to that show panel.
Okay.
But let's talk about
I'm already subscribed, so I'll get all the notifications. It was a great interview. You guys, yeah. I'm looking forward to more ongoing, fascinating conversations of that nature.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Let's talk about staking and other proofs or other consensus models. Just really briefly.
I don't want to go too deep into any one of them other than say that I think what our community needs to understand, and this is really, I think, important in light of the fact that our community is very GPU-centric right now, is that we are not pro-GPU, we are not pro-ASIC, we are pro-decentralization. And whatever is the best tool to accomplish that objective is what we will consider now, today, tomorrow, and in the distant future. If it turns out that GPU mining is still the best avenue to achieve that objective, then a year from now, we'll still be mining BTCP on GPUs. If for some reason the ASIC market were to change drastically by, large players entering into the space to commoditize the technology, whether it be Samsung or Intel or someone else, we will keep our eyes on that and evaluate that. If other possibilities become a lot more mature and viable, whether it be proof of stake, other variations of proof of stake, hybrid models, proof of space-time, other things, we'll consider it all. But whatever is the best tool to achieve that objective, because we don't want to be dogmatic. We don't want to be, we don't want to miss the point of our religion. That it's not about one technology or other. It's about the end objective of what we created the technology for and used it for in the first place. And that we believe is decentralization. So that is basically another way of telling our mining community, more than likely, whatever algorithm we decide to switch to at the rebase, it's probably going to be GPU friendly. But they need to come on this journey with us and watch how the market evolves, how technology evolves, and keep that North Star in sight with us, and realize that hopefully they can share that perspective. That today it's GPU mining. It might be something else entirely. It might still be GPU mining, especially if if minority and Prog VOW folk get their way. It'll be interesting to see how the future plays out.
Yeah, totally agreed. Totally agreed. Last question, most important one, and you and I already know the answer to this one. You already had a spoiler preview. But when were you going to pay me that 25,000 BTCP for this interview?
I told you, it's when you promised to pay me back.
All right, guys, just for the community's benefit, you need to know that these particular leadership interview series, this is not paid. So I haven't extorted a price from anyone at Bitcoin Private. Leave Pigeon Coin totally threw me under the bus with our interview because I said that I mentioned that and he's like, yeah, right. I'm not sending you anything. I'm like, come on, man, you're killing me here. Yep.
I paid you nothing and you've paid me nothing. We're just having a good time sharing, comparing notes and geeking out over GPUs.
Yeah, I appreciate you going on record as saying that. There are far too many guys. Everybody in the comments knows there are far too many shills, there are far too many fudsters, there are far too many gatekeepers and far too many middlemen, far too many people with their hand out thinking that crypto, just because it's digital currency, that it's free. And just because it's free, then it should be easy for anybody to insert themselves into the value chain, right? Without providing value. Like, yeah, so you got to give to get, and right now,
are you still hearing me?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I am.
Okay, sorry. Audio broke up just a little bit. Keep going.
Bummer. So yeah, just just wanted to go on record as saying that, guys, you, the community, are why I do this, and I think it's very clear in this interview that that's why Don does what he does with Bitcoin Private. So I really appreciate that. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, having you on the channel, because I think we're very aligned in that respect.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. So we'll talk soon. Any other questions for Don, guys, down in the comments? Nothing? Eric, new Ethereum giveaway. Nope. Yeah, on Twitter, my handle is not giving away GPUs. So, all right, guys, definitely. Terry, yeah, he's already seen my Lambo. It's too late. Oh no, exposed. I'm not going to name names, but there are a lot of people on YouTube who, when you see an interview like this, it's paid. They've extorted a price. A lot of wallet listings extort a price. A lot of exchange listings, they're very high. Listing fees are very high. So
it's an interesting market. It's an interesting industry. Yeah, but I'm really thankful that you've been able to have me on here and that we could just have a fun time together.
Yeah. Hey, my pleasure, guys. If you don't already know who loved your face, this guy. And we will see you in the next one.
Great. Thanks, everybody.